back at it with the Pops Fiero, and just wanted to talk about a little something I noticed about this particular kit, which I had noticed before on previous builds of this same kit. I'd completely forgotten about it up until now when I was putting the bumper on. That the exhaust doesn't sit evenly on the car. As you can see, when it's installed, this side sits at the right level, this side sits way too high. So let me show you what that's going to look like with the bumper on. Here it is with the bumper on now. The bumper is not even attached, it's not sitting 100% straight, but even so you can see the difference in where the exhaust tips sit. So we're going to have to do something about that. And if you notice, the bumper is higher on this side, so it's actually closer than it normally would be, because I just have it sitting on the body, not really attached. If we put it down to its mounted position, you can see that the exhaust is hanging down even further. So we're gonna have to do something about that. Before we do the repair on the exhaust and get it to sit a little more level, just wanted to point out, you can see the chrome exhaust tips. Those were done with the Gundam marker. They have their own chrome, and I gotta say, I like it. We'll be doing a test of that against the Molotov chrome pen, which is the chrome pen of choice. Let's see if we can get you guys a good look at that. In the modeling community right now. So we'll do a test of this with the chrome Gundam marker and see which one is better. Alright, let's get back to fixing this. For the repair, we put a drop of super glue on the subframe, taped the exhaust down just a little bit lower than what I wanted it to, so that when the tape is removed and it turns up a little bit, it should be sitting at the correct height, I hope. So that's the first try at fixing the exhaust here, before we take a few more drastic measures. So, hoping that this turns out exactly the way I want. Just have to give it a little time to dry. While that's drying, we're just going to take a quick look at the rear bumper, which I have just finished polishing out and bring it to a brilliant shine. That really does look nice. You can see the deep reflections in it. Yeah, this thing is going to look nice when it's completely cleaned and polished out. Now at this point I decided I'm just going to attach the bumper to the body, just so I can make sure I get all the body lines correct and straight. So what that took was just putting a little bit of glue on the inside edge of the bumper and attaching it to the underside of the belt molding that runs across the rear of the car, and then just putting some tape on there to hold it in place until it dried. This is definitely a place where you'll want to use some super glue, as attaching this part, it's a little fiddly because there's no real attachment point. It just kind of has to go glued to the bottom of the belt molding. So it's a little tricky, but once you put some tape on there, let it dry, it should be a-okay. Okay guys, we're going to talk about how I mounted the wheels and tires to the car. As you can see, I am using the off-brand tires and wheels. Off-brand, I mean from another kit, to replicate what Greg has on his car, as we're trying to get it as close as possible. So, I'll give you a look at what Greg has on his car, probably right about here. Now, I want to talk about how I mounted them. These wheels that are on this car were originally part of the Knight Rider Pontiac Trans Am, but they are very similar to the wheels that the Fiero had, which are these laced diamond spoke wheels. You already saw them on his car, but I'll give you another look at these wheels right on there, so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, for demonstration purposes, I'm just going to be using the wheels that came with the kit, which are the really good rendition of the Pontiac TurboTech wheels. I mean, they really did a good job with these. So down to the Pontiac script that's actually in one of the spokes. So I got to give Monogram credit there. That's just about Tamiya quality there. So what I did was, the wheels, the Trans Am wheels, are wider than the wheels that this model came with, and this model also uses the wheel backing plate to sandwich the tire between the two pieces and hold it all together once you glue it all together. Now, I can't use that because the Trans Am wheels are much wider. So if I use that, the wheels would stick out of the body. And that's what we don't want. So what I did was I created a hub here that's going to mount right to the end of the rear suspension, which is right here. Give you guys a look at that. The two little pins at the end of the rear suspension, and the front spindles here, which have these pins here. So what I had to do was make a hub for this wheel so that it would slot, it would fit onto these pins and onto these pins here. Whoops. So I'm going to show you how I did that. Now, I started with a piece of round sprue. Using my saw and miter tool here, I just cut the end off of that, measured it to the appropriate length, took the chrome off the wheel here, and all I did was glue the end of this sprue to the wheel. There I created a hub. Now, as you can see, this is quite a bit wider than the pins. Oops, I knocked one off, so why don't I just show you right here. This is quite a bit wider than the pins that it's going to attach to. So what I had to do was make bushings to insert into here because I didn't actually have anything that was the exact size that I needed. So I had to make it work. So I created bushings using aluminum tubing of several different lengths, thicknesses, diameters, and I inserted one in, cut it to the appropriate length, and inserted it into the styrene rod, and then inserted another piece of tubing into the aluminum, and there, which was a lot easier before I cut it, but one inside of this one and then that inside of this one, and that gave me the exact diameter, inner diameter I needed to attach it to the peg here. So the inner one is actually the one that fits perfectly around the peg, and the other ones just slide over it like a sleeve and give me the attachment point for the wheel on that peg. Now, if I could have simply attached the aluminum here to the wheel, would have been much easier, but I wanted to have something that was a little more secure than just this piece of aluminum here. So what I did was, in using the styrene rod with the Tamiya cement, which actually melted the styrene and fused it to the wheel, it created a super strong bond here so that the two pieces of plastic actually became one. And that gave me my hub, which easily mounted right to the chassis and gave me the exact look that I was going for. And now the only thing left is to perform an alignment to make sure that our wheels are all straight. And then after I perform the alignment to make sure they're all straight, then it's just going to be a question of dropping some glue in the back here. Oh, I also painted the hub and all of the hub and the rear of the wheel black, just to give it a little more of a realistic appearance. So you don't see that white plastic there. Now, Right now it's just held on with sticky tack because I needed to be mobile and needed to check the fit and to make sure that the wheels were centered correctly, which I'm really happy with the way they look now, as you can see there. Really happy with the way that came out. Straighten the wheel there, still not glued in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a small bit of my trusty slow setting, where is it? Tester's tube glue. I found that this is perfect for when you have to make adjustments and you need something to sit for a while but still be pliable enough that you can make your adjustments while it dries. So this stuff is great. You put a blob of it on, you let it sit, it turns really thick and gummy as it starts to dry, and then all you have to do is attach the part. It'll hold it in place while you're making your adjustments. And the adjustments, I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to do that in the next step. So now that we have the wheels on the car, we're going to move on to our next step. Okay guys, we're about to perform an alignment of the Pops Fiero, so I figure I'd just walk you through it and show you exactly how it is that I do this. As you've seen, I have 4 wheels on this car that are not part of the original kit, so I kind of had to make them fit. And if you saw the other segment of this video, you'll know that I do have a slight modification performed to the wheels. You'll see that on the video once I edit everything properly to make them fit. So now, after doing that, since it's not an exact fit, before I glue the wheels to the car, unfortunately they won't roll because of the fact that they are, let's just say, an off-brand wheel or from another kit going on the car. So now we have to perform an alignment to make sure that the wheels are straight. And this is what I'm going to be explaining now, that this is the process I use before I glue the wheels to the body. As you can see, we have the stance that we want. I'm very happy with that. So now I'm going to walk you through what I do and my little makeshift alignment rack here. Now, what I started with was a steel sheet I got from Home Depot. You can pick them up at any Home Depot. Make sure you get the stainless steel one, not the aluminum one, because they have to be magnetic. It's very important. Now, what I do is I put a grid on the sheet here. Now, all of these lines intersecting each other are very important because these are the lines that we're going to use to line the car up and have the rest of the process. Well, let me see if I can explain this properly. These lines are used to line the car up. I'll have to line up 2 wheels at least to one of these lines so that I can have them on the same plane. And this way, I'll know whether I'm straight or not, because all of these lines are square. They're all perfectly square going across here. So if I line the wheels up to one of these, to these 2 lines, I'll know that they're straight in the direction I want them to be. Now, in order to make small adjustments, because even though you get them straight on the plane that you want, there's always going to be small adjustments just to make the visual aspect of what you want come out so that the car looks like it's sitting properly on its wheels, which means you may have to tweak them a little bit here and there. But now, what I used to do that are these magnets. This is why it's very important to have a stainless steel sheet, as the magnets are going to rest right next to the wheels, and the magnets, while the wheels are lined up to the line going this way, the magnets are going to line up to the cross line. This is going to give you a right angle, which is going to allow you to make sure your wheels are perfectly straight. So we put them on the front and on the rear, and we do it on both sides. And that will allow you to make sure that your wheels are straight. Now, while the wheels are still loose, you're going to be moving the magnet in or out this way. I already have mine set, so I don't really want to mess with them. But you're going to actually be able to tilt the magnet left and right in or out in order to adjust the toe of the wheel. So that way you can make sure you angle the wheel right where you want it, and as it's resting against the tire. The same thing in the rear, and that's going to allow you to have a wheel that's facing straight ahead, or you can toe them in or out a little bit depending on what you're going for in the look of your car. Now, we're also going to affect camber, where we want the camber to be just slightly negative, so you'll see the tips of the wheel, the tops of the wheels may be sitting, instead of sitting exactly like this, you may have a little bit like this. As all Fieros, I think, have negative 1 degree of camber in their suspension, so you can tip them in as much as you want. If you really want that cambered look, which I am not a fan of, you can do that. Or you can just tip them in a little bit to add a little weight to the car. So all of that can be done by using this board. Now, to affect camber, what I do is, once I have my toe set, I'll put another magnet up on top of the first magnet, and that will allow you to push in on the top half of the wheel, which will allow it to, you're going to be pushing against the top half of the wheel like this, which will allow it to just push the top of the wheel in this way, so you can adjust the angle or the camber of the wheel. So now you've adjusted toe, you've adjusted camber, so you've pretty much done your alignment. You don't have to worry about caster, because this isn't a real car. Now, once you're done with that, you should have wheels that very closely mimic what the real car would look like, which I'm going to show you right now. Now here you can see the stance of the car. You can also see how the wheels sit. Now these are not glued in yet, so they're not in their final position, but they're very close to where I want them, to where the car has exactly the stance that I'm looking for. If the camera will focus. Which I am very pleased with where they are right now. Gonna make some small minor adjustments, but I am very pleased with where they are right now. So this is just one of the methods I use usually when using a wheel that doesn't come with the particular model, an aftermarket wheel or a wheel from a different kit like this, to get the wheels as straight as possible. And for the most part, it works perfectly. Every once in a while, you'll still get one that just won't fit exactly right, but for the most part, it works out great. So if you guys want to try this, all of these bits and pieces are available at Home Depot. The magnets, the board, and the Sharpie are basically all you need to make this alignment grid. And yeah, it's a lot of effort. But works out pretty nice. And it's just kind of fun to do, just another process in trying to make the model as realistic as possible. So you guys tell me if you think it looks good, if my alignment process is a benefit to this model. Alright, now we have to actually get busy and glue the wheels together. I mean, not glue them together, my bad. Glue the wheels to the chassis.